So he's real. The fan theory has been proven true. This is my first fan theory that I've seen that has gone from kind of speculation to actual realization. So that's pretty fun. But we're going to talk about that along with a whole bunch of other things. That's probably going to be one of the last things I talk about. For chapter 1137, what I want to hit on is exploring the castle and ancient giants, King Harold, the strongest king, Harding's compassion and his dream, the other giant tribes that exist out there, Loki and the Holy Knights, also what do they want from him, Gunko's power, and then finally the man of the hour or chapter, Mr. Shamrock. I don't like that I said his name that way. Shamwow. It starts off, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Roto are all touring Elbaf's castle. They see that it's been broken out from the inside. They get in, they see all this rubble that is around. Roto says that it's left over from a vicious battle with Loki. He said King Harold passed after a vicious battle with Loki. And so I know it's semantics, but I can't help but wonder, why didn't he say Loki killed King Harold in a vicious battle? It seems like that's kind of saying the same thing, but like one insinuates that Loki and Harold fought and then afterwards Harold died, versus if you said Loki killed King Harold, then it means that Loki dealt the finishing blow. So I'm kind of wondering what he meant by that. The only one who really knows the true story, the only one who was there, was Ja Rule, and all that he is saying is that his helmet saved him, and it really didn't. I feel like there needs to be some truth revealed about that Loki's going to have a flashback or something, and it's going to show what happened in the battle. They already blame Loki for a lot of things to begin with. I would not be surprised if they saw that the king was dead and that Loki has fled, and then they put a bounty on his head. Bars. I feel like there's a lot of misinformation going around in Elbaf. They have the Harley. They say people can hardly read the Harley anymore. And they have all this kind of confusion about Nika and what he represents. On the other hand, they have this massive library that includes both Elbaf books and all of the books from the scholars of Ohara. And it looked pretty empty in there. But I mean, also they're also out partying and things right now with the Straw Hats, so you can't really hold that against them. But for a kingdom with such a vast collection of knowledge, they seem to kind of argue over the most trivial things, and they don't read outside news, and they're kind of just all within their own selves. After we're going through the castle a little bit, we stumble upon King Harold's poster. They described him as a man who loved peace. In this story, we've already seen at least 2 rulers, 3 really. Cobra was one of them. Riku was one of the ones who like really stood for peace. Oh gosh, I have a paper cut. Oopsie. Riku was the only king that really stood for peace, and we saw how Doflamingo gained control over him. He would sooner hand over his whole entire country. He would sooner die himself than fight or have anything harm his country as the person who stood for peace. Otohime, she stood for peace and equality. When someone shot at the celestial dragon, she would sooner take a bullet than see an enemy get harmed in front of her, because she had no enemies, honestly. She was Thorfinn with it, just based off of looks alone. And not to say that everybody who stands for peace has to be the same, or everybody... Yeah, I'm not saying that. But based off of looks alone, Harold does not radiate peace. He looks very angry. He looks very controlling, very rule with an iron fist type, very bushy eyebrow, frowny face man. He was peaceful in name only, and there are a couple reasons why I'm assuming that, and it's more than just how he looks, because I know people in One Piece be looking any type of way. He's described as a man he loved peace. It says that he ripped out his own horns because they reminded him of, let me get the wording right, they reminded him of their era of war, because he had ancient giant blood, he had horns, and he ripped them out because they reminded him of their era of war. He could have cut them off. He could have sanded them down. Ripping them out indicates severe violence to himself. And I feel like you cannot do severe violence to yourself or anything without an extreme level of hatred for that thing. So if you have an extreme level of hatred for war, I feel like that's not a love for peace. You kind of get it, like, because it's like, I feel like there was a better way to go about that. Zoro said it takes like some serious guts, it takes some serious something, because like that's a lot. That's really a lot. Unless it's kind of just typical Elbaf culture, like, raw, I'm a giant, I'm gonna rip out my horns, raw. Maybe it didn't hurt as much as it sounds like it did, but it left like kind of like these massive scars on him and everything, so I'm assuming it hurt on some level. He tried to reach out to outside countries to show that they were peaceful, form peaceful bonds, but he couldn't even start with his own baby mama, to Hyrudine. Ask Big Mom. The way that you form peaceful bonds with other countries is through marriage. That's not the only way, but that's like one of the easiest ways. And so I'm thinking if he really wanted to form a peaceful bond, he would start with another giant country. He obviously loved them in some capacity. He had a child. They didn't even grow up in the castle. They weren't even recognized as a prince. He didn't marry this woman and allow her to be queen of Elbaf because they said the other giants would not accept her as their queen. But I'm thinking like, dude's king. Whatever dude says goes. So if he really wanted to push the matter, if he really wanted to be about forming peaceful bonds with other countries, he would have started with that. But he didn't, because he was scared or because he wasn't actually about what he was talking about. That's some BIGotry if I've ever seen it. So we get to Hyrudine. I talked a little bit in my last video about how he was forgotten for a minute, but turns out I forgot that was only like less than a full 24 hours that he was forgotten, so it really didn't make an impact. But it also didn't make an impact because he is technically the illegitimate child of King Harold. Hyrudine is the one that has the dream to unify all giant kind, which sounds like something that his father should have done, or like where his father should have started. He was ostracized for having tarnished blood, but he's kind of just like a giant Luffy in how he formed his crew. He's gonna become king of the giants. He grabbed Roto despite Roto's reputation. I'm assuming one of the reasons why Hyrudine is not on the throne currently is because he is with his new giant pirates. He's off kind of sailing the world, getting stuck in messes, like accidentally being turned into a toy. So he's kind of off doing his own thing. And also he's not on the throne potentially because the other giants won't let him, maybe. Because they see him as being like a half Elbafian giant. They won't let someone with tarnished blood be on the throne. I mean, it would seem like being king of Elbaf would be just a stepping stone to his greater dream to become king of all the giants. But I don't know what he's doing. He's living his best life, I'm assuming. It mentions that there are other giant tribes, and the only one that I remember hearing about is Elbaf so far. Maybe someone has done like a deep dive and they know that there are multiple giant tribes and these are their names. But there are other giant tribes. How many are there? Where are they? It makes me wonder about, like, we've seen so many, like, really massive people in this story, like Whitebeard, like Odin, Katakuri, Duval, and everything. And there's so much in One Piece that you can just be like, oh yeah, I guess that is what it is. He's 20-something feet tall. Makes sense, I suppose. But I'm wondering if they have technically like this other giant blood in them. Is that a reason? They said that giants don't look like oars anymore. Those are like ancient giants. So it's just interesting, just putting a pin in that for a second. Talking about the other son, youngest son and technically only legitimate child of King Harold, and also a scourge upon the giant society. We go to Loki and he is being tortured by the God Knights. Gunko is using her arrow fruit on him, which I'm thinking is the same thing that killed Cobra. It was an arrow that went through him. We didn't really see who did that, but we know that an arrow went through him, and now she shows up with arrow powers. I'm thinking she's the one who killed Cobra. But Loki is being tortured by her. Based on kind of what he's saying, we see that he would rather die than join the God's Knights. It starts off, he says, like, I already told you, I can't move. He said can't. He didn't say won't. He didn't say shan't. He said can't. He cannot move from where he is. Does he have some sort of obligation to stay where he is? Is he protecting something? Is he protecting the tree? How is he chained there, really? There's definitely more to this that we're not getting yet. And I feel like it's all going to be revealed soon. I know that Oda can just sometimes name things like different arbitrary things. Sometimes it's something very well thought of, like Corazon. Sometimes it is Central Freeway. But in Loki's case, it's like there's so much history behind the character of Loki. I'm thinking Loki from Marvel Cinematic Universe. If somebody came up to free him from his chains, he would agree, but he might not have loyalty to the people who freed him. He might just trick them anyway. So apparently with this Loki, it is not in his character to trick or deceive them in that way by just like outright lying to them. Or maybe he recognizes that they have different powers, and if they free him, then they're going to have control over something, or I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be as easy to just lie to them and trick them or something like that. He definitely seems like he's more of a prankster Loki than a trickster Loki. He's befriended all of the animals in the forest, which we already knew, but it's to the extent that all the animals have been fighting for him. They saw people messing with him, and they decided to go and act on his behalf to stop the God's Knights. It didn't work, but that's also kind of a similar characteristic to Luffy, is that Luffy ended up befriending all of the animals whenever he was alone in the jungle. And so he has to have some sort of like compassion. If the animals just recognize his strength only, I don't think they would have fought for him if they saw someone messing with him. The animals are fighting for him, so that means he does have that kindness that the person on the phone was saying, that no matter how much he likes to deny it. On the God Knight's part, he would rather die than join the God's Knights, which means he is okay in my book. They're interrogating him. They're telling him to join. The world government wants control over Elbaf because Elbaf once ruled the New World. And so I'm wondering why they're going about it this way. If you have all of these giants on the surface who have no king, they have no one to guide them, really. They have Jarl, they have Hyrdine, they have Dorian Bragi. They have no leader, truly. Again, this leaderless country where people are predominantly ignorant. Why would they go down to the one person that does not have anyone's respect, who is literally a prisoner at the bottom of the tree that their country is based upon? Why are they going to him? They must recognize his power. They must recognize that if they do anything to Elbaf, then Loki is going to do that to them. He must have the capability of doing so. It's kind of like if you can't beat him, convince him to join you, is what I'm thinking. Shamrock says, let's change tactics. Contact Marijois. I hoped we could have settled this much more cleanly. Gunko says, indeed, it seems he would rather die than join us. Is this some kind of religious thing? Shows their reverence for the Elbafian culture. So they're contacting Marijois. I don't think they're going to Mother Flame the place because they want to gain control over Elbaf, because Elbaf wants to gain control over the New World. It seems like for what's going to happen next is that Luffy, Zoro, and Nami are going to discover the guards who are in the castle. I'm wondering if we're going to switch back to Chopper and Robin in the library. And we're going to get some more context for the history of Elbaf or something anytime soon. Because some more context before all of the fighting and stuff kicks off would be appreciated. They might learn some things that don't come up naturally. They might learn some facts rather than just hearsay from other giants who are angry and also half drunk, possibly. Yeah, I'm Team Loki all the way. If he's against the God's Knights, then I am for him. I think he's going to be okay. And like I said in the last chapter, I think that Usopp is going to have a hard time with dealing with the fact that Loki's okay, despite what all the other giants are saying. I just really want him to have a hard time with it. I just want to see the drama that happens. I'm like so excited for it. Man, if he doesn't, I'm gonna be kind of upset. But like as I mentioned in my last video, I see Usopp as very loving of Elbaf culture, of the Elbaf Giants. He's just so happy to be there and finally interacting with the people that he's looked up to through this whole entire story. He hears a unanimous opinion from them that they don't like Loki, and then Luffy, Zoro, and Nami are potentially going to free Loki soon. And I'm wondering what that's going to look like when Usopp figures out they did something like that, and how he's going to react to it, how the rest of Elbaf is going to react to it, if they consider the Straw Hats to be traitors, if Usopp doesn't want to be a traitor to the Elbaf Giants, kind of things like that. Just going back to internal conflict within the crew is something that stressed me out while I was watching it, but I also kind of enjoyed it a little bit. So yeah, that's something that I'd want to see the result of. I feel like we're due for some historical context soon with Robin and Chopper, and to get some insights from actual books rather than just hearsay. I want to learn more about Harold and what the battle looked like between him and Loki. Did Loki kill him? Did Jarl have anything to do with that? How did Jarl end up walking away scathed but able to say that he's unscathed? And how is Luffy going to react to Shamrock? How is Luffy going to react to Shammy, seeing that he looks exactly like Shanks save for the non-missing arm and the missing scars? I would assume that Luffy would remember that Shanks saving him and losing an arm was like a pivotal moment in his own character development. But again, it's Luffy, so he's gonna say, what? Did you grow your arm back now? Let me know your thoughts about this chapter in the comments. I would love to hear them. If you made it to the end of this video, please consider liking it and subscribe as well. And hit the notification bell so you can get notified whenever I post videos on chapter reviews and things like that. I've been Meanie Mosey. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys next time.